What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm now back in my family's home, so no cinematic setup for at least a week, but hopefully we'll be able to continue that soon because I'll be going to Hong Kong again. But anyways, in this video I'm going to talk about the setup for Bitcoin, going to discuss Ethereum, going to discuss Solana. And one thing that I'm doing differently this time around is what I've noticed is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, like drop in the comment section, like in every kind of like intraday video that I've been making, I've also started the video off on the weekly chart and talking a little bit about the higher time frame and, talking to the swing traders out there, where I feel like every single video I'm spending like 5 minutes just repeating the same thing over and over again, because the truth is about higher time frame moves is that they take, longer than a week to play out. So throughout the full week, I'm literally just repeating the same thing. So what I've done to kind of solve this issue is moving forward, I'm going to be recording 2 videos on Monday, I think. One is going to be kind of like a weekly outlook, so focusing more for the swing traders out there, because truthfully, there's not much that needs to be updated there. And this saves like 5 minutes on every single video, where I can just dive right into the intraday setups rather than, try to cater for different audiences. So do you guys think this is a, good step in the right direction? Let me know in the comment section down below. But otherwise, like I will link the, the weekly outlook down below so that you understand what to expect heading into the week. But otherwise, yeah, we're going to focus on intraday in this video. So to kick things off, last Friday, that trade ended up, working out. After this point here, CISD got confirmed, and then we got in, and for a few hours, it was actually chopping around until the price eventually just bounced like pretty hard. And that cigar, by the way, was, don't know if you guys, if there are any cigar smokers I don't know if there's any cigar connoisseurs in the comment section or like within the audit, like amongst you guys that watch me, but I'm a huge fan of cigars. Anyways, that cigar right there, the Patagas Presidente, was something, not super special in my opinion, especially not for like 30 euros, but good smoke nonetheless. Not that I would, but I probably wouldn't buy that again. Like the construction of it was really just so for, how expensive of a smoke it was. And for that price, there's so many other competitors that you could go for, like Fuentes or, I'm gonna dive too deep into cigar talk right now. But last Friday, if you take a look, like we chopped around for a good moment, but after we got the CISD, which got confirmed, I think at this point right here, chopped around for a couple of hours, and then boom, you hit the target. And in fact, right on the target that I set, which is 116,600. So that marks the 106 win out of the last 131 calls that I've made here on YouTube publicly since February. So if you're new to the channel, like welcome. You're probably in the right place because we tend to be right more often than the wrong. Anyways, kick things off on Bitcoin first. Like I'm going to get into the weekly because I've already made another video on that. So we're just going to kick things off on the daily. So daily so far, there are a couple of key levels that we're going to want to look for price to retrace into. One of them is this Fibonacci gap right here. The other one is this Fibonacci gap right here. And the third one is this order block right here. So starting from 114,650, which price is currently already inside, this is already an area where we can potentially look for retracement for price to bounce. Just on the daily bias itself, it was bearish. And so today we're going to be looking for shorts. However, based on the weekly outlook, we are actually bullish for the week. So we're going to take the opportunity of price potentially today and tomorrow. If price continues to dump into either one of these levels, that is going to set the precedent for a huge pump later on during the week on Wednesday, where we are going to get federal funds rate right here. So this is going to be the biggest trading day of the week. This is Wednesday, 2 p.m. And Monday and Tuesday are very likely going to just set up for that move. Again, if you want more information about this, feel free to check out the weekly outlook video. But otherwise, like the focus for today is going to be towards the short side, at least from an intraday perspective. Now, from an intra-week perspective, again, we're going to look for price to come down to these areas where we are going to take a huge long. Anyways, going down into the lower time frames, what we can see is that the London session has now swept out the Asia low while filling in some kind of key level. However, because the highs was already swept right here, we are not going to be bullish. In fact, if we close bearish, right, if we close below this level right here at 115,000 within the next 2 minutes, this is going to mark a 1 hourly change in state of delivery, which means that on the 1 hourly chart, we are going to now shift bearish. And so the setup for today is going to be like full on disclaimer. The setup for today is probably just going to be no trade. Again, we have news on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you guys have watched my videos for any amount of time, you know that our win rate and our probability goes like 30% higher when we are dealing with a news day. And on non-news days, that tends to be a different story. It tends to end up being a loss. So not to say that today cannot be traded, but one, ideally, just don't trade for today. And second, if you do want to take a trade for today, stick to maybe half risk, because truthfully, Monday, especially with such a big news week later on down this week, it's likely going to just set up, right? Monday, Tuesday is probably just going to be something of the setup day. So again, the setup for today is going to be pretty straightforward. You're just going to be looking for a short, especially now that this CISD here is confirmed, and moving down to the 5-minute chart, or rather just checking the 1 hourly chart. Once you close underneath this level, this entire block here is going to become bearish resistance. So the setup for today is just going to be retracing back into there and then targeting 2R down below. Now let's go into the 5-minute time frame to see if we can further narrow this down. And that is the Asia session. And right here you have a block of just bearish orders. And right here, 115,400 as well as 115,000 flat is going to be the two areas where you want to look for price to retrace into to dump. Now, of course, this gets invalidated in the next 20 seconds if we do not go below this. But in fact, let's just sit here for a bit and let's see if it closes. And like I thought, so that is CISD confirmed. And so setup of the day, pretty straightforward. Now let's move into Ethereum real quick. Again, I've also done the weekly outlook for Ethereum, but the setup for today is going to be similar as well. Ethereum, you already confirmed the CISD right here. In fact, this is much bigger of a CISD. This is so much bigger of a move compared to Bitcoin. So arguably, Ethereum may be looking a little bit worse off than Bitcoin. So potentially, if you want to look for a short today, Ethereum may be the one to focus on. But I'm going to stick with Bitcoin personally. Word of caution that I will definitely give you is that when it comes to taking trades on crypto, you never want to open up multiple positions on the same day, because truthfully, this is all just the same chart but with different kind of like brand name. So if Bitcoin dumps, everything dumps. If Bitcoin pumps, well, chances are everything also pumps. So they all sound different. They have different names, they have different packaging, but ultimately they're the same chart. So you don't want to be like opening multiple different positions at the same time, because you're just putting yourself at risk of getting stopped out multiple times in a row if you happen to be wrong. So Ethereum is also pretty straightforward. Again, just looking for that. In fact, the setup for Ethereum may even be more clear compared to Bitcoin, because if you compare it, like for example, this is the Asia session, and during the London session, you actually traded above the Asia session, which means this is a false move, right? London tends to be the manipulation before New York distributes. So today on Ethereum, the setup's actually super clear, where you have A, M, and then a retracement before D. So the setup on Ethereum is actually like super clear, where you have A, M, and then New York, you're going to retrace before distribution. So the areas that you're going to want to look for a retracement is ideally 4580, where this is the CISD line, although I doubt that you're going to retrace that far back. So let's see if there are any other levels, and that's going to be the first one right here at 4559, as well as this further gap right here at starting at 4570. So if you retrace into either one of these levels, look for a short trade or 2R. And again, because today is not a news day, and because we have such a big week of news coming forward, again, this is probably just going to be a setup day. So don't expect like there to be a huge dump, but just understand that it's still tradable. Just you want to approach it a bit more cautiously, or to take profit a little bit earlier compared to usual. Now let's move on to Solana. And again, like it's the same packaging. Solana has already hit the high traffic target that I've kind of set out from before. In fact, it hit yesterday. So that was pretty interesting. So far, again, you are just retracing into any one of these levels. I cover this in the weekly outlook as well, but just understand that, again, I don't have to say too much about this. If there's one chart that I would focus on today, potentially Ethereum, because of how clear it is, but also at the same time, like Bitcoin, you also swept out the Asia high during London. So right now, I think Bitcoin makes the most like risk to reward sense, because you are much closer to the CISD box. Also, you have a clear order block over here. So in the event that you retrace into either one of these levels, that's going to be my focus for the day. Otherwise, let me know if you enjoyed this new video format. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And again, no position is also a position, because of how high probability the rest of this week is going to be. It never hurts to just save your mental capital, save your physical and financial capital, wait for more price action to develop, and then it's never too late to jump into it, get a huge payday. Again, it's not about the number of trades that you take, but rather the quality of the trade that you're looking at, as well as the amount of capital that you can put behind that trade. If you're able to risk, like, let's say $5,000 on one move this week and make $15,000 back, like, you're going to have a much better week compared to if you maybe put $100 into like 10 different trades and you burn yourself out in the process. And then that's going to be the mindset that you want to adopt heading into this week. And in general, actually, if you want to have a long career as a trader. Otherwise, guys, see you guys in tomorrow's video. Ciao, ciao.